I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
What's up, YouTubers? So, I was actually asked to make this video about the Nation of Islam. Now, when I was first read this request, I was like, yeah, no, I don't really want to make a video about the Nation of Islam. But then I changed my mind, because a lot of people know about the Nation of Islam in the sense of what's in the mainstream media and what they've heard in terms of from the death of Malcolm X and so on, but they don't really know the origins of the Nation of Islam or how absurd the claims of Elijah Muhammad are. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to cap on that real quick, because I just think that people should know how crazy the organization is. First off, it all started with this guy, Farad Muhammad. Farad Muhammad was actually he was preaching his so-called great teachings in Detroit, Michigan. Now, Elijah Muhammad would not actually meet this guy until 1931, if I'm not mistaken. This is when he would basically meet Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was very poor, extremely poor. His family was poor. In fact, they were sharecroppers. And he lived in Georgia, but he moved from Georgia in 1931 to Detroit, Michigan. And it is there that he would encounter Farad Muhammad, ironically a white male, who was teaching his so-called great teachings. Basically things that Elijah Muhammad would take over teaching. And just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on, the guy was basically preaching about starting up a new religion that would teach black people that they were in fact the favored race of God, and that white people essentially were evil. They were devils. Elijah Muhammad, though Farad Muhammad never said this, believed that Muhammad believed that Farad Muhammad was in fact Allah himself in the person form. And it's kind of ironic too that he would follow this guy's teaching so wholeheartedly, and yet throughout his teachings you would hear him claim the white person to be the devil, but yet he getting these great teachings from a white man that he loved so much. It's crazy. Now, you would think that he was studying with this guy for a lifetime. You would be mistaken. He actually only studied with Farad Muhammad for about 3 years, when he then, from 1934 to 1975, would be the leader of the Nation of Islam. An organization that really honestly and truthfully Elijah Muhammad himself started, believing that he was called to do so by Farad Muhammad, that they call Master Farad Muhammad, which is just a slave mentality. You calling the white man master. I mean, it's crazy. But moving on, some people will have you believe that the organization was founded by Farad Muhammad. Farad Muhammad certainly expressed an idea of establishing a religion that taught black people that they were not inferior, but he certainly never started it, from what I have actually studied and gathered. But it doesn't matter. That point is not really that important. The point is that Elijah Muhammad believed that this guy was God in the human flesh, and that ultimately he was supposed to establish a religion that taught black people that they were the favorite people, the favorite race of God. In addition, he believed that this guy, according to Farad Muhammad, told him that the white race was created some over 6,000 years ago by a black man, by a deranged, angry, raged black man. Even to be specific, I think they said he was a chemist, but whatever, a chemistress. But nonetheless, so this is something he believed, that black people created the white people. But out of I guess out of a test tube or something, whatever. It's absurd claim, but nonetheless, Elijah Muhammad would basically move on establishing this organization and establishing this religion. He would write a book, and he would use quotes from both the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran. Now, it is important for you to know that though this organization is called the Nation of Islam, and they believe that they're from the lost tribe of Shabazz from Africa and what's not, this nation is far from Islam. This organization is far from being Muslim. They're not Muslim. They reclaim this, but they are far from it. Now, Islam itself is a despicable religion, but so is Christianity. But for that matter, you will find that the Nation of Islam has a lot of Christianity themes, some Muslim themes. It's all over the place. They're not Muslim, but nonetheless, also one of the things you would see is that basically by the 1960s, you would get to a point that Malcolm X would become Elijah Muhammad's national minister and national spokesperson, the representative of the organization. Well, we all know what happened with that thing. Is that Malcolm X did not see eye to eye with them, and ultimately you started to reach the point where you got Louis Farrakhan now being in charge of the organization. Farrakhan, when Malcolm X split it from the organization, Farrakhan was basically prone to take over. And he did. He did ultimately take over the organization. But most people don't realize that when Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Islam basically went through a huge split. Malcolm X took half of the people with him. Now, most people would come back over time, over the next decade. But in 1975, Elijah Muhammad died. Elijah Muhammad named his seventh son as his successor. He did this because the guy was just dumb. He was obsessed with a whole lot of things, and the number one was one of them. So he named his seventh son as his successor. Well, things did not go as anyone was really planning, because the seventh son, though had wholeheartedly followed Elijah Muhammad, did not agree with all the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. He agreed with the social teachings, trying to better African Americans, trying to get them to establish their own communities, their own wealth, their own prosperity, to ultimately take their destiny in their own hands. But he disagreed with Elijah's religious views, and he certainly disagreed that this Farad Muhammad was God himself in the person. But what he did essentially was he basically started to agree with some of the teachings of Malcolm X. Malcolm X, when he left the Nation of Islam, converted to Orthodox Islam. And this is exactly what Elijah Muhammad's seventh son proceeded to do, to essentially convert to the basically convert to Orthodox Islam. And that's what he did with the organization, essentially tried to take it down the path of Orthodox Islam. The organization was pretty much shot after that. It was pretty much gone. Over time, it was pretty much nothing left of it. You still had a few members clinging to it, but for the most part, it was done for. Even Fawad, not Fawad, even Louis Farrakhan had left the organization for some time and started to follow the teachings of some of Elijah's sons, and that was, of course, including the conversion of the conversion of the organization to Orthodox Islam, and also basically himself converting himself over to Orthodox Islam, but decided that he could not go against the teachings, and basically told Elijah Muhammad's sons that I can't do this. I'm not going against the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. And he took his old ignorant ass right back to the Nation of Islam to basically re-establish it and rebuild it to what you see it as today. Louis Farrakhan is a very disturbed man. He's living in the past. He don't want to let certain things go. And I truly believe deep down inside that he knows that the stuff he's saying, a lot of it is bullshit. And that's not to say that Louis Farrakhan does not bring up some valid points and valid issues that should be addressed. Now, I don't know whether you heard his recent views on Libya. Okay. No, we should not have necessarily rushed into Libya as we did. We had joined sooner and armed the rebels and went in to try to perhaps train them. We may have never would have had to start up a no-fly zone, because perhaps we could have forced the president of Libya into some type of negotiations. Fortunately, we let things get far too bad and then decided that it was going in, and kind of left ourselves no choice there. But Louis Farrakhan is under the perception that that the government has covertly caused civil war in Libya, and that basically it's because the president of Libya is no longer seem to be benefiting enough with him being in that position, and so we sparked the civil war so that we can have a regime change. You know, he loves little conspiracy theories, especially when attacking the United States. You know, you can't listen to Farrakhan on a lot of things because he is so crazy. But he does bring up a valid point about rushing into Libya may not necessarily be a good thing. But, you know, Farrakhan, he brings up some valid points, but a lot of his points is just absurd. And you have to be careful the way you listen to this guy. He's a disturbed man. What do I think the future of the Nation of Islam will be? Now, before I conclude this video, I want to say that I do want to readdress this issue again later. But I want to gather a little bit more facts before I really dig deep down into this. I just wanted to touch on this today to respond to the person who requested me to make this video. And I am going to, of course, continue my story upon, you know, me breaking the chains of religion. I am going to be posting up a new one, trying to get that posted up on Wednesday or on Friday of this week. But to conclude this video, what do I think of the future of the Nation of Islam? I think that the future of the Nation of Islam is doomed. People know that the Nation of Islam is BS. And now we have something called the internet. You can find this stuff on the internet very easily about the Nation of Islam and its origins. And people are going to realize this. They're going to realize the nation to be a fraud. And eventually, the nation's lies, eventually the organization lies, eventually the lies coming from Louis Farrakhan and his followers will be seen as bullshit. Because that's exactly what they are. But nonetheless, this is going to conclude this video. Go ahead and feel free to comment or whatever you want to do, but make sure you tune in Wednesday and no later than Friday. That's when I should have the new video posted up for the week. Peace.
But think twice. That's my only advice. Come on now, who do you think you are? Bless your soul. You really think you're in control? Well, I think you're crazy. Since I was little